Namaskaram, name is Saidara. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Dream to Go Online. So in this video, we are going to create the final part, the implementation part of this project. Okay. So if you followed my previous tutorials, you should be able to complete until this far. So in the part one, we have shown how you can list your products online. In part two, we have seen how you can add an item to the cart, or how you can add an item, multiple items to the cart, and how you can update this counter, and how you can have a functionality related to delete an item from a cart. So all this we can be implemented, okay, with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And you should also have this setup as well already, all the necessary files as well. Okay. So if you don't have the setup, or if you don't have the preview, how you can see the current project, then I suggest you to follow my previous tutorials and then come back here and to resume this video. Okay. So now we know that how we functionality related to e-commerce is finished, but I wanted to see the preview of my cart. So there is no way that I can see right now. So how I can do it? So you can do like I mentioned in the demo, like this one. So or you can also create another page and where you wanted to list those items. But since this is HTML and JavaScript project, if you navigate to another page, you lose that information. Okay, otherwise you need to use cookies and to manage stuff. So instead of using cookies, so I wanted to show exactly in the same page, okay, just like the how React projects works. So I wanted to use it in the same page. That's why I'm using a model. Okay, so I'm going to use a model to create. I'm going to create a model like this, and then I'm going to have a static header, and in the middle, I'm going to show all the items you added into the cart. And after that, I also going to calculate this price, and I'm going to append it in the end. Also here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to update the total based on like the actions you do. Okay, so like that, I'm going to make a sync also. Whenever you update something, I'm also going to show here as well those changes. Okay, so that's the part we are left with this in this project. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so let's add as a first step the necessary HTML for this preview box. Okay, so the necessary HTML we needed for this preview box are as follows. Okay, so this is the HTML I needed for this project. Okay, so what I did was I created a new section. So this is the static header. And after that, like I had half of the part is dynamic in this footer part. So here, as you can see that the total, I created an ID because I'm going to use this ID to update this dynamically with the help of JavaScript. So this is now going to be static again. And this is going to be dynamic again, just like how we listed our products. So in this case, we are not listing the products, but we are listing items from the cart. So they are the same products, but information can be little different. Okay, so this is the HTML we needed. So once we save it, and if you go back, and you should see something like this one. Okay, so but whereas like you see, so the layout is entirely different. So how we can achieve in the similar way? So you can achieve with the help of the CSS. So let's add the CSS, relevant CSS for this one. So let's target this class, okay, with the help of this ID, okay, and add the necessary files, okay, properties what we needed. So again, so to segregate your code and to have a mm, to segregate your code from other rest of the code. So we should also have another comment. So since this is a new module, so I'm going to call this as card preview section. So and then I will add the necessary CSS to look through it. So the first thing I'm going to add is like cart info. Okay, so this is the cart info function. Sorry, not a function. I'm calling with the help of ID. So I'm using a hash, and after that the name of the ID, and after that I'm going to keep this in a fixed position since because I want it should start from 0 0 just like in the demo. So I'm using like a fixed position property, and after that I'm giving these two properties to start from top right, and after that like I'm having a background image, so sorry, background color, and after that I'm just giving some width. Okay, so z-index is the magic property if you are new. Okay, so this generally like keep elements on a stack based. So if you want one element to be on top, generally you use z-index, but z-index will only apply when you have a property called position absolute or position fixed. So what is the difference between position absolute and fixed? So if you keep here absolute position, for example, so if you minimize the window, you have a scroll, right? So if you scroll it, the like see the cart is moving. Okay, so I don't want my cart info should be moving. So that's why I'm going to keep this in a fixed position. So which means that it's always remain in the same place, yeah, even though if you scroll. So that's the thing I wanted. So that's why I'm using the fixed property. Okay. So after that, the padding, I just added some padding inside it. And then I'm having a height of 100% and I minus 40 pixels. So I'm going to tell about this 40 pixel later on. So just keep in mind that right now I'm just um, having my height out of 100. So I'm just like taking some 40 pixel out of it, and then I'm assigning my height 100% height to the height based on the window height. Okay, so I'm taking the window height and I'm giving to this element. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. So now after that, like what I need to do is I need to add the header CSS. So let's target that as well. So let's add those. So this is pretty straightforward, so nothing fancy here. So I'm just using a dot because since it is a class. Okay, so after that I'm just adding background, like some radius and padding, nothing much. So as you can see here, so I just added some border radius here and like top left corner and top right corner. So and after that, like I'm just having the background color. So text to transform, I can made it as a uppercase, and then nothing much actually. So only the padding is there. So then they're normal. After that, what we need to do, so I wanted to have the footer. So I'm going to make this footer in the bottom. Okay, so to make it in the bottom, generally as I already explained, so I want to make it using with the help of position absolute. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to target this card checkout. So I'm targeting that. Okay. So and after that, I'm using absolute position. Okay. And also I want to start from bottom. So I'm using a bottom attribute to start from bottom, like up from 20 pixel. Okay. So 20 pixel from bottom. And after that, I'm giving a width, okay, of 100% because since it is an absolute. So if you don't specify this width, so let's see what happens. So if you save it and if you go back and you see here, this is started from bottom, but yeah, since like if you don't specify the width, it won't take automatically the entire width of the parent. So you have to specify the entire width, and then you need to minus exactly what you don't want. So you don't want this width, right? And also you don't want this width. So you need to calculate that width and give here so that you will have exactly how the header. Okay. So and again the border radius, the background meters are normal again. So I'm just using a display flex in order to make them in the side by side, and also to keep them in the ends I'm using specify justify content space between, nothing much. Okay, so after that, so in the middle now I wanted to write the CSS part as well. So as I can see, these elements are like in a stacked in a row. So I'm going to create for the parent level some CSS, and after that we can write in the CSS what we needed. But for the moment, let's make them the parent level class as well. So this is the parent level class. So part info items. So I added display flex property since I have multiple elements. So if I add one more item, so I want to make them in a stack in a column wise. So that's why I'm using a display column that text direction as column. Okay, by default it's row. Okay, so you see here card checkout is a row because okay, so here I see that it's a row I have here. Okay, a row means like side by side, column means like you have one by one after another. So that's how you can have a display flex properties. Okay, so after this, now what we need to do is like now we are able to complete until this far. Now what we need to do is we wanted to attach something like this, right? So how we can attach? So just like we listed our products, we need to append our cart elements. So we know that cart is empty by default. Whenever you add whenever you click on the item, so we are adding or removing from the cart. So this is where we need to call whenever we wanted to update those dynamically added products to the cart, right? So here we need to create a function. So I'm going to call this as a render cart preview. Okay, so preview box. So then I'm going to define this function since this is the place every time it happens whenever you add or remove. So after you add or remove, so I need to know what are the elements inside the cart. So those elements I'm going to attach here. So to attach, you need to have a reference, right? So this reference you needed. So this is the reference we need to have in order to update that information. Okay, so this is like cart uh, items. So cart items reference of document dot get element by ID. So this is the ID I want, and then sorry, and then so this is the item you need to call here. So by default inner HTML so should be empty. By default it should be empty. Okay. So and after that, okay, so you want the total. So because you also want to calculate the total. So this is the reference you need because you also need to update the total, right? Every time when there is a change. So like this one. So you also need to have the reference for that. So let's have a reference for that. So let's copy and paste this one. So I'm going to call this as cart total. Okay, so let's copy this class as an ID and keep it here. So now I have the reference for the total as well. By default again here, so inner text is equal to is empty. So here it is HTML because uh, you see here I have multiple elements. That's why this is going to be HTML. But here it is a text, so that's why I'm adding a text. Okay. So in this case, so 0 by default, and after that, you want okay. You can also do instead of concatenations, you can directly keep here and space, and then so you wanted the rupee symbol. So let's take the rupee symbol. By default, this is the thing what I wanted. Okay, and after that, so if there are items inside the cart, which means that in that array I have array of objects, then I need to write a condition based on it. So cart dot length is greater than 0, then you need to calculate the price. So how you can calculate the price? By looping over this cart array, you can write the, I mean, you can create the calculation functions. Okay, no, you know, yeah. By looping over this array, you can calculate the total. So this is the array I'm looping over, and I'm going to call this as prod, which means that product. Now you can call it as product, but in short, I call it as prod. Okay, and after that, you have to calculate the total. So how you can calculate the total? So you can also create another function for this, but I'm just creating my logic directly inside. So I'm going to call this as total is equal to 0. Okay, so whenever you loop, so I want to add to the total, so the total plus the prod price. Okay, so how I know this value? So this is the prod. You every time you add, so you add these properties, right? So I'm calling the same property here. Okay, nothing different. So also by default, like you are adding this as a string. So I wanted to pass this to integer, otherwise it will take as a string. So I don't want that. So I'm going to pass this text into string, I mean, sorry, integer. So then in this case, now it is going to be perfect. So now I have the total. So all I need to do is the same in the text here instead of 0. So now if I have some elements inside, so I'm having this total plus this rupee. Okay. So now if I save it, so let's hope, I hope it should work. At least the total now. After that, we are going to add the inner items. Okay. So the total which I am talking about is this one. So right now it is 0. So by default, like for example, also we can also have this symbol in the HTML as well. So let's add this HTML and then maybe 0. Okay, like that. So in this way, by default, it is going to be 0 as well. Okay, so as soon as you add an item now, let's see what happens. You see, I added this item, so this is delete, so 30,000. So if I add one more, and you see now, is I was able to calculate the total properly with the help of this JavaScript. Okay, so now we completed the bottom part. Okay, just like this one. Now what we need to do is we wanted to append those. We are already able to loop over whatever the items we added. In this case, I added two items. So I wanted to append those items here. So let's append those. Okay, how I can append? Just like you created before the HTML dynamic way. So in the same way, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to copy and paste here. So in the same for loop, okay. So here I'm creating a div, and here I can call it as cart info item. So let's say I'm going to call this as cart info item. Okay, I'm going to name this as cart info item. Okay, so and after that, this HTML is not needed because this HTML need to be different from here. So this is the HTML I needed. So what HTML I needed here? So this is the maybe like this, I can call it as index. Okay, this is a trash icon, name, image, and price. So let's take all the span tags. So because since they are not in the column wise, but they're in the row wise. So with the span tag, it will automatically keep in the same side by side ones. So that's why I'm using this HTML tag. So inside that, what I need is this is the index I'm going to use. And after that, the pretty straightforward product.name, product.image, product.price, and again the same symbol concatenation value. Okay, and what I did was here, so here you can see I'm having the trash icons which I accessed from my folder. Okay, so that's all. And afterwards, so yeah, I mean I have this is the counter for the to create 1 2 3 4, and this one is trash icon, name, image, price. So what else we need? Name, yeah, that's all. So once we save this, and if we go back to our file, so if you add now, okay, nothing happening because we miss another thing. So we are able to create an element, but we haven't appended to our reference. So this is the reference. So let's append to that. So append child of element. So this is the element we wanted to append. So now we are appended. So let's add. Okay. So it's working, but we need to add CSS. So let's add CSS. Before we add CSS, the first thing I wanted to do was, okay, let's access this class. So this is the class where I wanted to attach the CSS. Okay, so like that, and inside that image I wanted to, because since it is very ugly, so I wanted to have a minimum width. I mean, the maximum width I want was like 50 pixel. So for any image which appear inside of it, because since I have two images, one for the product image, one for the trash icon, they're really big. So now if I do, you see, it is little better. Okay, now I can see at least like that. So now if I add one more, let's see what happens. You see I have now. So let's add the other CSS what we needed. Okay, so to target that class, we already know how to target. Okay, so this is the target class. Okay, so let's target this class and write the necessary thing. So all I always wanted was display flex again. Okay, so and afterwards maybe I wanted to justify content as space between, so that everyone have their own space. Okay, so now it is better. Okay, so and also I want them make them in the center in the same line. Okay, so in center. Okay, perfect. And also I want some padding for each line. Okay, so let's add some padding. Okay, I have the padding as well. And afterwards, I also want some border bottom because I have some border bottom. So I'm going to call this as orange because since I have here some border, okay, so I have it now, but there is a little difference here since the width is really small for the trash icon. So let's add that trash icon, the width. Okay, so for that, I need to create a class to target that. So let's add the class here. So I'm going to name this as trash. So for this trash, I'm going to give the width of maybe 20 pixel. So let's see. Let's add now. Okay, I think it's not applied. So why it is not applied? Okay, I think it is overwritten. So now we need to override this class. So we can use because of the previous it is not working. So now, okay, yeah, it should be fine now. Okay, so that's how you can debug and solve if there are any issues. So, but there is some problem here. So it is 1 instead of 0. Okay, sorry, it should be 1 instead of 0. So how we can do that? So to start from 1, so when we go here, I think we can here we can do +1. So every time you add +1 so that it starts from 1. Okay, so now if I add 1, 2, 3, and as soon as I delete as well, it should work. Okay, there you go. Boom. So now we have everything, but there is something missing, which is the total. Okay. So the total is missing in the end. So how we can add the total? So let's add the total as well. So how we can do it is, so you can add a total after you complete everything. So which means after the for loop. Okay. After the for loop, we can add, okay, sort items dot append. So in this case, it's not append child, but append. Okay. So after that, what we need to do is simply the total. So the same thing, however we are doing here, so do the same thing, then it should be fine. So now if I do, so in this case, the total is now 24,000. There you go. Okay. Perfectly, everything is working. So, and also you can, so I'm going to give you the task. So since you now I shown already all the functions, how you can write in the JavaScript in a dynamic way, how we can add events and also event listeners. So as the last point I wanted to give you as a task is, so write a event listener for this one, okay, for this trash icon. When you click on this delete, you should delete also here and you should delete also the corresponding, and you need to change this one. So do that. And so if you do that, you become a pro in uh, creating applications. So if you are unable to understand, then you need to revisit my videos, how you can add an event listener for the dynamic elements and how you can update those text back. Okay, so you have to do more practice if you can't do it. Okay, so try to practice more. Okay, so there is another thing now. So now it is visible all the time. Okay, I don't want to make it visible all the time. By default, it should be empty like that. So only when you click on this, I wanted to make it visible, this one. So now for your task, I'm going to give you in a static way the solution. So try to imagine how you can do it for the dynamic way. So now this is a static one. This is the static button, right? So for this button, I wanted to have a click event and write the event listener. So how I can do it? So this is how I can do an event listener for that. So for that, I need to have a reference again. So let's have a reference here for that. So I'm going to call this as card button. Okay. So card button I'm calling. And inside that, I need to give the ID. So let's give the ID. Okay. And after that, for this button, since this is a static, so I can add directly the event listener as soon as you load this JavaScript. Okay. So and after that it's going to give me some callback function. So after that, inside of it, so what I need to do is, if so I need to see this is the reference. Okay, again, so we are going to have a reference for this entire window. So that window is this cart info. So again, I also need to have that one. Okay, so let's add another one. So cart info. Okay, so cart info is the same one. Now we have an iPhone. Okay, so cart info. So now I have the reference of that. So what I need to check here, cart info dot style dot display property. We need to check if the display property is empty. Okay, so then what I need to do is cart checkout. So this is the cart info. Sorry, yeah, the cart info. We need to, okay, cart info dot style dot display is equal to block. We wanted to do that. And after that, else case, what we need to do is we need to make this display as empty again. So if it is already showing, then we need to hide it. Okay. So also another thing is that we need to first of all make this cart info not visible. So in this case, I'm going to make this as display none. By default, it should not be shown. Yeah, there you go. So by default, it's not showing now. So as soon as I add an item, so it's still not showing. But here, if I click, you see it's working. And if I click again, you see it's not moving. So I think there is a problem here. So it's not going off. So we need to check. Okay, this it is not equal to, but it should be assigning. Okay, so now if I add one more, so now you should see, yeah, there you go. So so with this, we completed successfully our project. Okay, so like I gave the task before, so you need to add an event listener for this trash icon. When you click on this, and you should be able to delete this item from the cart, and also the corresponding text need to change to add to cart. So that's your task. Okay, so that's the task I gave you as an enhancement for this project. And also, once now we know the full price related to our cart, okay, so if you want to add a payment gateway for your project, you can add with this button later on. So try to read the documentation related to your payment gateway corresponding, and then implement the logic, and then you can publish this app anywhere to have your own e-commerce project. Okay. Uh, that's all. I hope you learn something from this tutorial and from this series. So far, this is the final part for this project. But later on, as a bonus, like I said before, so I'm going to convert this e-commerce project using React as a front-end framework. So I'm going to explain there why we are not using anymore this way of writing the JavaScript, and why we are going for the frameworks like Angular, React, or Vue.js, and we are going to create the same project using the front-end frameworks, because in reality, in real world projects, now the e-commerce projects are not implementing in this way. We are going to implement using one of the frameworks. So why we are going to do that, I'm going to explain in the next series. So if you wanted to have, if you wanted to learn how you can do that, so don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So when I upload the series of videos, how you can create your own e-commerce using with the help of React framework, so you will know. Okay, and also if you want to become a front-end developer, you must need to know at least one of the framework like React or Angular or Vue.js. So stay tuned. Bye for now.